Welcome to the Beyond Imagination Minute with author and speaker, Shana Schutte.
When God calls you to do something, you can be sure that there is going to be opposition. And oftentimes that opposition is not going to come from people who you do not know. But the enemy will use people who are closest to you. I remember when I first started ministry and I asked my mother if I could tell this story on her, and she said, "That's fine." I said, "I won't throw you under the bus too bad." But when I first started ministry, I remember my mom thought I was absolutely nuts. God told me, "I want you to quit your job." And so as a person who will get out there on the edge, I did that. But I remember my mother saying to me, "You have got to get a job." And I said, "Mom, if I do that, I am going to be completely out of God's will." Now, she is one of my biggest cheerleaders. When I go to her and I explain a problem to her that I'm having in my calling, she will tell me to trust God. Instead of trying to get me away from what God has called me to do, she now supports me. But the enemy will use people who are closest to you. And when that happens, sometimes they're going to stick a label on you. They're going to tell you that you are nuts. They're going to tell you that you're inadequate, that you can't do what God's called you to do. How dare you think that you can do that? You don't have the right degree. The enemy will come after us in any way to try to tear us down. There are all kinds of things that the enemy can come up against us with through other people. And we can get stuck with a less than desirable description that causes us to feel inadequate. But listen to this. Today's label that someone has stuck on you does not mean tomorrow's failure. In Exodus 2:14, one of Moses' fellow Hebrews mocked him and he said, "Who made you ruler and judge?" And ironically, this is so awesome and it's so like God. 40 years later, Moses was indeed sent to rule and to deliver his people. And in Acts 7:35, it says he, Moses, was sent to be their ruler and their deliverer by God himself. Isn't that awesome? By God himself? And because Moses' true label was given by God himself, no one could remove it. It was Moses' real identity. Remember that today's label that has been stuck on you by someone who sees you unfavorably, who sees you inadequately, who's trying to come against you to try to trip you up so that you do not fulfill your calling, does not mean tomorrow's failure.
To learn more about Shana Schutte, her upcoming speaking engagements, and her book, Betrayed by God, Making Sense of Your Expectations, visit shanaschutte.com. That's Shana, S-H-A-N-A, Schutte, S-C-H-U-T-T-E.com.